Okay.
Now, if I want to refill for a beer, do I just ask you?
You just ask me because I've got them within reach, but...
I do have to stop recording.
No. You're going to have to hand me a glass so I can do the old... So then I can... Like, I've got working space here.
But do we keep rolling during that?
Yeah, totally. I just
Okay.
as long as I don't show the advertisements, man.
Okay.
So that's why they're in these glasses.
Well, okay.
Yeah, so well, I guess this is a good start. This is the start. Well, so welcome to the Pagey train.
Oh, are we rolling?
Man, we are totally rolling. So here we are. Here we are with Matthew C. Vella, Western Sydney filmmaker, director, writer. Has taken some glassware away from Made in the West. He's taken the Best Student Film, what was that, 2016?
Yep.
Audience Choice Award, 2018.
Yep.
And the first, so for your student award, it was for Bleeding Backs.
Yeah.
And
if I was to brag, which I would never do,
we're the best at it.
That same year, that's Bleeding Backs also took Best Actor and Sound Design. But, you know, who's counting?
Yeah, well, certainly, filmmaker extraordinaire. Certainly, as a lot of people would be aware, I put some subliminal messaging in Made in the West, and part of that is rock stars. You're certainly a rock star of Western Sydney. So, yeah, welcome to the Pagey train.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a total blast. The second you told me that you wanted to do a podcast, I was like, fuck yeah, of course he is. Like... You're so perfect for this stuff, and the fucking setup you've got here. We can swear in this, right?
Yeah, of course we can.
Okay, fuck yeah.
Yeah, fucking oath.
The second you told me, like you told me about this whole idea, is like, of course, great idea. And this setup you've got here, dude, is so impressive, man.
Yeah, thank you.
This is incredible.
It's been a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's taken a bit of time. Well, look, this is essentially my high school bedroom. That has evolved over, you know, I don't want to say how many decades, but enough decades. So yeah, you know, the rug still ties the room together. There's always a couch, there's always a big screen, and there's always a computer. And now there's just a section which is the studio. So, you know, green screen podcast. You know, all started with a backpack, really, backpack and a camera.
It's dope, man. It's so dope. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very different to the setup my podcast has, where we sit in our own like little bedrooms and we record separately and send it over. We have this one guy from the States who literally records in a closet with clothes, because that's the only place you can get decent like acoustics.
So he's surrounded by clothes.
He is like hanging clothes and stuff. It's insane, but he sounds amazing though. So it's, you know.
Yeah, well, if he's getting it together, but you guys are doing that online though.
Yeah, it's completely digital, because there's two of us from the States and two of us from Sydney. Sometimes us Sydney boys will get together and do it in person, but mostly it's like we all record separately, and then we send all the files together and we put it all together. And
so you do an edit and then release.
Yeah, and you would never know. Yeah. Like, for the most part, it works, but there is something special about being there in person and
yeah, okay. Yeah, but I was talking to you earlier about it before. By the way, it's the midnight double feature is what we're talking about. So we got to get that plug in there. It's the midnight double feature.
Yeah. And that podcast is all about like movie reviews and news and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay, but we're talking, without buttoning on before, about the difference between, you know, edited podcasts and, you know, just totally raw podcasts. You totally do a raw podcast, don't you, with that? Like, that's just how you put it together is how you put it together.
More or less. It's what you see is what you get most of the time. There are some tweaks here and there, but it's how it is, and it definitely makes it easier, because we do 2 episodes a week, so
that's a lot of content, man.
Yeah, we just did episode 100 maybe a month ago.
Yeah, okay.
And it's really on the rise. It's doing really well, so really proud of that and the team. I can't obviously take the credit, like most of it at least. The 2 main dudes are Colin and Zoheb. Shout outs to them. Yeah. They absolutely been killing it on that front. So
Well, I've gotten you in here today, Matt, to talk about you as a filmmaker in Western Sydney.
Yes, I make films too.
Yeah, well, I met you back in university. I think I was a year ahead of you. I think I was third year and you were second year. And
something like that.
Yeah, and I walked past you in a foyer. And I was certainly a man on a mission at that point. And I was looking for films for the second made in the West. And I walked past you in a foyer editing a film. So that was Lynch, right? So talk to us a little bit about Lynch. What was your experience making Lynch? The seed that brought Matthew C. Vella together.
Okay, so that was... Oh, man. So...
I know we're going back. We're definitely going back here.
I was not expecting to talk about this. No, but it's fun. It's fun. So... I was doing a communications degree, not even a filmmaking degree.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, I went to study at a proper film school, and I even got a master's in media arts. Which, for the record, no one needs a master's in media arts.
Yeah, no,
it's
but
cool to have,
but Matt, you need you need that.
Yeah,
you definitely need that.
Yeah.
A lot of good things have come from it, but we digress.
Yeah.
So there you are.
So we go to make a film, and we had this teacher, and he's like. Just don't do something with lots of blood and stuff. Just try and be creative. And the first thing me and my mate go is like, let's do a slasher, like an 80s inspired slasher. Mm-hmm. And remember, this is a communications degree, so we weren't really told how to run a set or anything. So we had a script.
Yeah, it was very run and gun.
Yeah,
it was very run and gun for us back then.
Like we were just figuring out like who's directing. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're directing this scene and I'm shooting. Okay, now let's swap. We'll do things like that. We had a script which I wrote in like maybe 10 minutes, where they had scenes.
That's pretty generous.
Like,
10 minutes is very generous for a final for second year uni.
I might be exaggerating, but it literally had moments where it said, and then she dies. And then on set, we'd be like, okay, what's next in the script? Oh, and then she gets killed. All right, how'd she get killed? I don't know. And so then we'd stop the set for 5 minutes and be like, all right, what if we did this? What if we did that? And the way, it was like this killer at a party, and the way that we got that to happen is I shouted a whole bunch of friends free alcohol and said, come over, we'll get drunk, just do what we say, which is the worst thing you can do because we have like naked people walking through shots. Like we got these people absolutely hammered. It was so hard to control. But then I remember the first time I properly met you, because you mentioned to go, oh, enter that in my film festival. Yeah. But then the first time I properly met you was to hand it in. I'd hand it in person. You guys, I don't think, had an online thing going on.
No, we were totally like in running gun mode for the festival back then.
Just we were running gun for the film.
Yeah. It was USBs handed into us. A very loose architecture of correspondence. But nonetheless, though, man, I think we got near 300 people there that year.
It was
incredible.
It must have been something like that. I was back at Parramatta. That was insane.
The Roxy Hotel.
Yeah, shout outs to them.
It's coming out a few times.
Yeah.
The Roxy Hotel comes up a bit.
But dude, so I remember I met you. This is back when you worked at TVS, Shouts to Television Sydney. Mm-hmm. And I came in like all awkward and like, oh, who is this guy? And
that's right. I was running operations out of operations.
I think it was like a cricket or a baseball game or something that had to go to air like within an hour or something.
Oh, the Blue Sox. That would have been the Blue Sox.
And you were losing your shit because like it just kept crashing on you, and you're like, this fucking piece of shit. You're like, like it had been testing your patience clearly for a while, and and you're like, who are you? And I'm like, I got a little film.
That's right. I had that outrageous office.
Yeah.
I had that. Well, it had like, not a couch, but it had like 2 lounge chairs in it, and behind the edit suite. And I used to pace back and forth in there, and it was all painted black. And I can a lot of noise come out of that office.
Memories. I'll tell you a funny story about that film though, which is. I use the word film very loosely. I call Bleeding Back's my first short film because it was the first time where I knew what I was doing.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the point. That's kind of the point I'm making with Lynch versus Bleeding Backs, because you had this experience as an undergrad that is totally run and gun making these films to make that movie.
Yeah.
And then you do something that's more focused like Bleeding Backs, and then I wanted to really explore the contrast between that run and gun experience to that more focused experience with Bleeding Backs.
Yeah, we can get into that for sure.
Yeah.
We can get deep with that. Yeah, so what I love about this is, we did this film. It got I think a distinction or high distinction or something.
Yeah.
But this teacher, he sees, he's like, yeah, all right. But then throughout my life, I constantly meet people and they're like, oh, you're Matthew Vella, you're Matthew C. Vella, yeah. Oh, you did that Lynch film. Like, how do you know me from that? It goes, oh, well, this teacher shows it to us as an example of something that's too ambitious to do at our level and that you should not do it. He always leaves out the fact that it got a high mark, but he's always like, yeah, don't do something. He shows an example of something not to do.
Really?
Which is a little bit offensive, but also a little bit like, thank you, because...
Yeah, I think I was on one of those lists as well. Yeah.
But I've met so many people from that, which is just hilarious to me, and also a little bit embarrassing. But
I don't know if we're talking about the same lecturer though.
Maybe
different,
not. Maybe
different
not.
lecturers. Yeah.
But
actually, probably the same lecturer. Actually,
could be.
Yeah. Well, let's just leave that. We'll leave that out.
But that really sort of weirdly paved the way for everything I do, because every short film I make, it's something that I should not be doing for where I'm at. Like, I'm always just going, what's next? Like, for my first real short with the crew and everything, Bleeding Backs, I'm like, let's do martial arts. Let's kick people off balconies.
Yeah, man.
I wanted to smash through people through glass walls, or doors and stuff, but we pulled back a little bit.
Yeah, you peeled it a little bit back from
doing
there.
Stunts and everything like that, you'd rarely see short films doing that in short film festivals, let alone a proper first-time filmmaker.
Totally ambitious, yeah.
And then, just my most recent one, She's Not Your Type, it's I went the complete opposite. It's like, hey, let's work with improv and all sorts of weird stuff, but we still got to keep to a very tight schedule. So I'm always trying to find weird ways to challenge myself.
Yeah. Well, do you think it's important to reach out what you think is, because you find where the limit is, and you go, well, what if I just reach a little bit past the limit and see what I can get out of it?
It's the only way you're going to learn.
Yeah, totally.
It's the only way you're going to learn.
Yeah.
I actually am a little bit disappointed with. I see some people, they work on short films and it looks like they don't really challenge themselves. It's just two people sitting on a couch and it's good. If it's a good story comes first.
Yeah, they've got a good strong dialogue with it, yeah.
And you can still push your ways and self in other ways, but I'm very big on the thing I always say about myself is I'm just a kid playing with action figures, smashing them together. I look at Hollywood and I want to do that, but I don't have their money, so I'm how to do that, but for way less money.
Yeah, I think it's an important thing to say, man. Because if you're aspiring to be a filmmaker, I think you got to look at what the resources that you have in front of you. I've brought it up before. It was on Made in the West TV, which we'll be releasing soon, by the way.
Oh, I can't wait to see that.
Andrew Lee, he talks about film being a hustle. I just can't get away from this thought because it's just something that is so true. Making a film is a hustle. You've got to beg, borrow, and steal.
Every filmmaker
to get
is
it
an
done.
entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Every producer, they're an entrepreneur, right? There's nothing separating you from the guys that I don't know, pitching at Shark Tank.
Yeah,
pretty much. It's the same thing. 100%, man.
So Bleeding Backs, right? Looking at how you made Lynch versus how you made Bleeding Backs, would you say it was more focused, more researched?
Yeah.
Because those fight scenes that you were putting together, they're off their head for what you were doing, man. It was a massive reach. So
thank you so much.
And that's why it did well, man. It did really well.
I can't believe
it was well received.
Yeah, I can't believe the absolute insane response. The fact that it's winning awards overseas, let alone at all. Is just insane to me.
Well, that's right. You went over to New York, man, to the the AMC.
Yeah, it played at the AMC theater. Well, it played at the AMC theater, and they had an award ceremony at the HBO theater, which we didn't win anything at that one. It's funny.
But you showed there, though. You went over there and
yeah, but it was ironic because while I went there to New York, we're winning an award in Scotland. It's fuck, I should have went to Scotland, but I always wanted an excuse to just go to New York for a while. So and that festival was insane because they specifically work on look at action stuff.
Yeah,
and it's always extra rewarding to see a film in front of an audience that is going to appreciate it. So
it's just great that you're over there flying the flag for Australia. It's great that you're over there flying the flag for Western Sydney, man. That would have been a hell of an experience,
bro. It was, man. And Oh, dude.
I remember
so
offering.
great.
I'm like, do you need a producer to come and do your documentary for you? Like, I'll come over for you. I'll be. You just give me a time. I'll be there. You know. I was very keen.
Dude, you're so supportive of like all, not just me, but all Western Sydney filmmakers, man. I really appreciate that. I've always, I got to say, like, I've looked up to you in that regard, you know.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Because like, and I say this all the time, right? I don't care what anyone says. I'm Main the West #1 fan. Ever since I entered in.
You have been there for the long haul.
I've been at every single one, and that's what I fell in love with, just seeing familiar faces and films and stuff like that. Not because of the films, but just knowing that those films are made with people in my local community.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to do a segue here, but it is a good one. But, that's what inspired me in part to create Western Sydney Filmmakers Hangout, which like is just, as I sell people, say to people, like with Main the West, they show films and then they have people talking. We're just that talking bit.
They're the extended leaves of those branches, man. You know, I think, and you know, these platforms that we've set up, I think that they're amplifiers for artists, man. So that's why film's a really cool thing, man. Because I find it at like an intersection of art. There are so many things that go into a film. There are so many different skill sets that you need to put a movie together. Whether it's long form or short form, you need a lot of, generally you need a lot of people. There's very few one-man bands out there. They are out there, don't get me wrong. They are out there. Sometimes we feel like the one-man band, being a slasher and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I think, ultimately, these platforms like Made in the West and Western Sydney Film Hangouts is an amplifier. It is a place where people go, yeah, man, you don't feel alone. You realise that you're not on your own, and then you realise that things that feel like they're out of reach aren't necessarily out of reach. All of a sudden, these collaborations happen, and all of a sudden, people start talking about it, and they start feeling proud about their work. And someone that is, critiqued, or not critiqued, but curated a lot of Western Sydney content. I can see the growth in where it started to where it's going, and where it is. Like every year, the same thing is said. It's better every year.
Yeah.
And I have this terror in me that one day it will reach a ceiling where they go, oh, that's the peak. But I always think the next year is going to be that peak. Yeah. And it never is. It never is. For the last 3 years, man, I'll go, nah, it can't get better than this. It's not possible. And then it just does. And watching these relationships happen out of that. And there's also like a really cool pecking order of people that are, film diehards that are like yourself from Western Sydney are out there supporting their fellow filmmakers. But they're also being leaders in that team as well. There's people that are newcomers and they're fresh, and watching those guys show up is just another amplifier. That's hence doing the podcast as well. It's just a feed loop, and you're doing because I've got to say, like when you were talking about doing all these podcasts and all these episodes that you've done, it was totally inspiring, man. I'm like, I've been thinking about this for ages, and we should be doing these things more often.
It's funny you say that, because like I think, like, I was actually thinking the other day, it's like, if it wasn't for Main the West, would I still be making films? I'm sure I would still be creative, or maybe still making films, but as much, because that's been a catalyst of me seeing, oh, it's possible. Because I grew up sort of my parents telling me, like, you've got to have a real job, you've got to, all that sort of thing. And I'm thinking, oh, I can't be a filmmaker. Like, I made my first film really when I was like 9 years old. I only discovered this, I forgot all about it, but we filmed on a Handycam, and to do music, because I didn't know how to edit music in, I literally got a cassette player and recorded a Super Nintendo game on pause and played it like very loudly. I got to piece it together and like properly and put it out online one day. But like I've always been making, I totally forgot about this until very recently.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah, thanks. But 9-year-old Matt says thanks.
9-year-old Matt's in the background going, yeah, thanks, man.
Thanks, man. But like, I know I'd always be creative. Like even like in between stuff, I've been doing music. I'm back in music again, actually. I'll show you some stuff later.
Yeah, okay.
But
yeah, I've got some recordings I'll show you later.
We'll trade.
We'll trade. Yeah.
But like, I found this as an inspirational thing. To like, oh, I can keep going at it, and I can keep doing stuff because I had a place to go to see what was going on. And when I started getting serious in the films, I was really sick of just traveling all the way to the city just to work on projects and stuff. And what's great is now there's a community where I'd never have to do that again, in theory.
Yeah.
Maybe not fully, but you know.
Oh, but they're everywhere in Western Sydney. I just think the artist to normal profession ratio out there is just off its head. And I think Western Sydney gets overlooked a lot.
Well, the
really
thing is,
does.
with Western Sydney is, you gotta keep in mind, like, this is where they chuck a lot of the immigrants, the refugees, and even like the outcasts of life, you know, the people who actually struggle most. It's Western Sydney, we're the hub for that almost. But that creates, that births like an artistic spirit, I feel, you know?
Yeah,
like I heard a saying once, is like, some of the greatest art comes from pain, comes from people who struggled and stuff like that, you know? Hell, it's the reason hip-hop kind of exists, like, to some extent. And I think so, we're going to get some of the best stories from there. Hell, even look at the Oscars. Everything winning Best Picture, 8 times out of 10, it's rich white people voting for a film about a minority who's suffering. Like, that's kind of where it's at. And I think that's one of the elements that show that, like, we've got some really powerful stories coming from our hood.
All right, well, let me ask you my next question. Okay. So we've gone from, you know, the running gun Lynch film from your undergrad to going to film school, doing Bleeding Backs,
learning how to do it properly, and not fucking up.
And then to She's Not Your Type. So, you know, to horror, to action, to comedy, and you've really taken, you know, She's Not Your Type as a really big challenge. Like, because, like, you know, to going to writing comedy from doing action, that's a massive transition. So what motivated you to do the comedy?
You know what? It's I made an action film, and I felt almost pressure from people who go, "Oh, I can't wait to see the next one," expecting it to be an action film. And everything I wrote, I just really disliked. I had all these ideas that I want to cast this person already, and I do all these things, but like with action, like almost all the stories boil down to the same thing. It's a military ex-cop, ex-military guy, security guard, assassin. It's always the same type of characters, unless you want to get into like sci-fi and stuff.
A jittery Eskimo firefighter.
Yeah, something like that, you know? And so I was getting frustrated because I wasn't coming up with anything super original. And if I did come up with something, it was just way too out there, which I was unsure if I could make work with what I wanted to do.
Yeah, if you can make it stick.
And so I sort of told myself I need to take a creative break from this and try and do something else. And comedy, I think, weirdly comes to me way more naturally. Like, I could pitch you 5 comedy films right now that I've got in my head. And this one particularly started off from my lead actress, Adrienne Galata, who's a great friend of mine. And
yeah, she's a definite up-and-comer.
Yeah, she's awesome. She always talks about, like, wanting to go to LA and stuff. I'm like, you don't have a good show reel yet. You need to get your show reel first. Let me help you direct the show reel. And then, like, you know, and then we'll do something. And through that, we had trouble finding a good comedic scene. And she's such a funny chick. Like, she needs comedy in her show reel because that's one of her great strengths. So even her personality, she's just so funny. And I knew she'd kill stuff like that. But every time she'd show me a scene, it'd either be too short or I feel like wouldn't showcase her enough. And eventually, I was just thinking, well, what would we do? And all the scenes we would find that we both like were of 2 dudes. Like, I guess we could just gender swap it or whatever. And then I was like, well, what if I wrote something? And then almost immediately I had this idea of the concept of the film. And then I'm like, fuck it. And I wrote it. And then I had these ideas in my head boiling up. And then one day I couldn't sleep. I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to write it down. And in one sitting, I pulled an all-nighter and I wrote my first draft, which I never do.
So you wrote She's All That. Well, not She's All That. She's Not Your Type. In a night.
The first draft.
Yeah, okay.
It went through heavy changes later on.
Okay.
But I had all the ideas building up over weeks, though. So it was just a matter of getting them out of my brain, mostly.
Yeah.
But, and I showed it to her, and I knew it was onto something when she texts me and she goes, I had to stop, like, on the second page from reading, call my sister in so I could read it to her because I was laughing so much. And it's like, okay, we've got something good. We're working with something. And then that was a completely different way of working because we want to go for that American comedic type. So it's like, okay, we're going to try little bits of improv. We did mostly like ad libs and alternative takes, and the cast absolutely killed it.
Okay.
It was such a different experience, but it was so much fun. It was the most fun I had on set, and I want to do just so much more stuff like that. It's fun.
Well, I've described that film to someone as a barrage of intense comedy.
Okay, thank you.
It is relentless, because by the time you're finished laughing at the first gag, you're onto the fourth gag.
Well,
it's just an onslaught of like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah.
It just, yeah.
Well, that's the idea. Like with sitcoms, there's like a rule, like every 30 seconds, or maybe it's even less, there has to be a laugh. That's why a lot of times you see them say something as a laugh, and you're there like, that's not that funny. It's like, it's because like it's kind of like a rule that sitcom writers give themselves. They have to at least have something that could pass off as a joke, like really quickly. And I'm not saying I did exactly that, but I knew there had to be punchline after punchline after punchline.
Yeah,
and it had to snowball.
I think you could describe it as belt fed.
Okay.
Yeah. Watching the when we watch the films for Made in the West, I like to take bets with my team, because essentially we have to go through and we need to classify it. We need to pigeonhole all of it, so we can then give that package to some judges to make their call on it.
Yeah.
But as we're going through,
your team doesn't judge the actual film.
No. That goes off to 8 or 9 judges, and they don't know each other, and they judge the films.
Yeah.
But before we give them that package, we need to sort them all out. So we've got to categorise them, and to we need to vet essentially the content as well. And we always take bets along the way, because the Made in the West team, the core group, will spend a weekend watching it, and I took bets on your film.
Okay.
And I'm like, that is totally going to get the Audience Choice Award, and everyone was like, oh, I don't know, it's a bit full on. I'm like, nah, I reckon everyone will go for it. So I have a tendency to do a lot of crowd wandering for Made in the West. So, because I'm between so many different points, because so many different tasks I've got to do, I do get the odd opportunity to stop and watch the audience. And the audience reaction to your film was electric.
Bro, I can't stress enough how happy that made me, because I know it's hard to think of in hindsight, but I went in thinking it was just going to bomb, right?
You went in with feeling that way?
I did, because I knew making it was so
risky.
much fun.
It was really risky too.
I didn't realize how risky it was at the time, because we had so much fun on set doing it. We were laughing, even just like when we'd talk about before shooting it. It was so hilarious. And then while editing it, oh God, cutting comedy is so hard. It's like, do I show the reaction or the joke, or am I cutting too fast? Am I cutting too slow? With a fight scene, like, that's hard to cut too, but like, I thought that was it. Like, comedy is so much harder, I found.
Because you got to build tensions, build that timing.
Yeah, there's a flow to it. It's almost like rapping, If the flow's out of whack, the whole thing's whack.
Oh, so you'd say there's a rhythmic sense to it.
Almost, sometimes, yeah. And I don't know if I definitely haven't perfected it, but well, at least for that fast-paced comedy, some things like The Office, like, you still need a rhythm, but it's a different type of rhythm, like
it's different timing,
and stuff. But what I was getting at was, so I made this, and then I stressed out so much in the edit room. I calculated approximately 40 hours cutting this 10-minute film, right? And I showed it to some people, and I got mixed reactions. I know for a fact my mum did not love it. She was like, there's a lot of swearing in it. And I'm like, okay, you're not the target market, I guess. And so I kind of went in.
Should you be making these type of movies?
Yeah, those type of things over here. And so I'm going in like, okay, this makes me think. People go to film festivals, for the most part, they want it to be prestigious. It's meant to be a fancy thing. And here I am just like, dicks, like those type of jokes, So I'm thinking like, oh God. And so when it's announced as semi-final, I think it's maybe your first or second year, where you announced the finalists before they get in or something. You had like 2 announcements.
Yeah, there's tiered announcements,
and I was like,
because as it's going through the process, we get that feedback and we're like, yeah, that's a semi-finalist.
That's right. And I remember when that happened.
And then the noms come out. Yeah.
And when that happened, I just had some feeling like, oh, I'm not making it to the next stage. I don't know why. And I did like, oh, okay, well, I won't win anything. Because I knew like, I think most of these judges are not going to like it. And maybe I'm right because they didn't win anything from that.
Well, not to be too insane though, like the competition is really stiff.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
the content that is out there at the moment is insane.
That was the other thing. Like, I tried looking up some of these other films. Like, this is a goddamn masterpiece. I have no right to be up against this film.
That imposter monster creeping in. I don't belong here.
Well, yeah, that happens. Like, and especially with this film up against some of those other amazing projects. At the moment, I was like, at that time, I was like, I guess I'm just honoured to be a part of it. But then when...
I'll still go.
Yeah, for sure. Of course I am. But then when we got that very first laugh early on, and it wasn't even like one of the big laughs, it was like a small like giggle, but like we got a laugh out of them, like, oh, this is going to go well. And then...
Oh, so you had an emotional switch over, like...
During it,
everything is going to end to this is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, if they laughed at that, then they're probably going to laugh at the next one. And then... It was such a emotional experience to me, and then I was kind of just felt like it was weirdly accepted because I often feel like a weird outsider in the filmmaking world where I'm just trying to do stuff that I think's really cool, which is stuff that's really inspired by Hollywood. But most filmmakers, I feel like, you know, they look at that and they think, oh, you're a sellout, or it's not this artsy interior personal thing.
Sounds like someone's get a case of the Sposders.
Exactly, right? But that's how I felt. But like when I got those laughs in that theater at that festival, it was just like, oh, I'm accepted. Like, it's okay to do what I want to do now. Even though I kind of had a little bit of that for Bleeding Backs, but like it was with this film, it's like, oh, if they're okay with this, like I'm allowed to be who I am. So
yeah, so you got a lot of vindication.
Oh, really? I cried from happiness.
Yeah, well, that's a massive vindication for you, man. So I'm really, I didn't know all that. That's really cool, man. That's
it was really an emotional roller coaster. I know this film about just dumb dick jokes and stuff like that. It weirdly affected me on such a positive impact because it was like, oh, okay, people will accept me for doing stuff like this. I didn't have to do
Well, isn't it doing it doing it's how many festivals is it in now? Like, hasn't it haven't you sent this around the world?
Man. She's Not Your Type. I haven't counted. I know Bleeding Backs has been around 15. This one's maybe done
because you've put out so many posts about so many awards that this thing's nominated for.
I'm actually.
Where is it? Where? Tell us where this film is.
Okay, so the most recent one was. So here's the thing. Sometimes when you get official selections, some festivals, they'll select your film, but they won't screen it, which is they're the festivals I'm not a big fan of, to be honest. Because it's like, if you're going to give us a laurel, show the film. But I don't know, it's some weird marketing thing for them. But it did...
Everyone likes a laurel, though.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's great. So I got one of those for New York recently, but they didn't, I think, screen it. But we think most recently screened in, back-to-back we did... it was in the Midwest, Indianapolis, I think it was. And before that was Texas, where it did really well in Texas. I'm really stoked on that. And then before that, it did... It's weird. It's only screened in Sydney or Australia once, which is Maine the West.
Yeah, okay.
It's screened, I think, 3 or 4 times outside. Yeah. It was only in the last, few months.
In the States?
Yeah. Yeah, all the states so far. Yeah. But there's a few more coming up which we're looking pretty good for.
Are these the European ones or?
Yeah, mostly. I'm mostly targeting America because it's very American comedy. But I've looked at Canada and the UK.
Man, that must be expensive. Because it costs to enter a film festival. When we do the costing for Made in the West, we try and pull it down as much as we can to keep it accessible. But I look at on Film Freeway.
Yeah.
And it must be expensive to enter all those festivals.
Look, it does, especially if you don't know what you're doing. I definitely spent more on Bleeding Backs than did on this one. Now that I've got a better understanding, there are some festivals out there who are straight up scams.
Yeah.
They're just straight up scam. There's no way around it. They say things and they're lying about it, right? And you learn from them. You get burnt from them. You learn from them. Then there are other ones where they're just online festivals and maybe it's good for a laurel, but for me, it's I want audiences to see these.
Yeah, why would you? Yeah, if we were going to do it online, why wouldn't you just? I can understand running it online if you're running a live event.
Yeah.
So if you ran the live event and the online, I see the appeal in doing something like that.
Those are
because if you had people like an international festival and you're putting it online, so that if you had an Italian entry, the chick in Italy that entered the film could watch it.
Yeah.
But just to have an online festival,
I know it's a weird space. It's a weird space for sure. I'm definitely starting to become less interested in festivals like that. I want to get in front of audiences, especially there are some you get like real niche ones. Like I'm trying to get in like comedy ones because that way I know the audience is going to see. They're going to get.
Yeah, of course. Because you target the genre, genre specific.
And I've been really chasing Australian ones, but like. You'll get ones that are like their new festivals are starting up, so those are often cheaper. But then you're not going to get in front of big. And then you get like the real big ones, like the Academy accredited ones, and they are super expensive.
Yeah.
So for a film like this, which I don't think has got a big chance of winning the Oscar, I might ignore those.
But even being eligible for an Oscar is pretty good.
Oh, I've definitely entered.
Because if you win those festivals, you're eligible for an Oscar.
It's true.
Even being eligible for an Oscar is a nice feather in the cap.
Ooh, I would love that.
That'd be sweet.
That might be my favourite feather. You know?
That's the favourite feather of all. Other than an Oscar, that's the favourite.
From the Golden Goose, that's my favourite feather. But I think I haven't been that lucky yet. One day maybe, but it does add up. But if you know what to look for and you know the type of festivals to target, you get a better return on your investment, I would say.
All right. Well, as a filmmaker, as a growing and up and coming artist, what advice would you give to someone that is from Western Sydney that's looking to get into film?
Okay, so
someone that's hungry. We're talking to a hungry filmmaker that doesn't know what to do.
Okay, so first of all, there's the generic advice that everyone gives. Just go out there and make films. And it's good advice, you know? You can claim to be a filmmaker, but if you're not making films, then are you really a filmmaker?
Are you a filmmaker?
A lot of people say they are, and they say they're a writer, but they've got the same script they've been working on for 10 years. And it's like, that's awesome. Hope you sell it, hope you make it, but at the same time, try and get something done. And the biggest thing I've learned is if you're not, like, it's the same sort of idea, but you just got to know when to let go and to put out there. I know people are going to judge you for it, but you just got to do it. Like,
it's never finished. It's never finished.
It's true, and you just got to accept that. The best example I can give is true story. I once knew a filmmaker who I won't mention names, and they made many projects, right? Multiple features, multiple shorts. None of them got released because they were never perfect.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was really unfair.
If you made a feature, surely you'd rent a cinema, sell some tickets, you know.
Mostly no, because like their ego got in their way, and like no, it's not perfect, it's not perfection yet. And then one day this person, they're making like their third feature, which probably would never be released or something. And these like features are made on like shoestring budgets. Like they're not going to be masterpieces. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but it's still long form content, which must be a lot of work.
So much work. But this filmmaker had the nerve to talk shit on a web series that had someone they didn't like on it. Right? Like, oh look, the shot's overexposed. Can't believe they think it's acceptable quality.
Oh, okay.
And I had to be like, hang on a second. At least they released this. They can say they've done a web series, right? It's out there. I can go watch it. If I can't go watch what you've made, then are you actually doing the things you say you do?
Yeah, totally.
So that'd be my main thing.
Well, I've released stuff that I've been terrified about releasing.
If I was smarter, I would take Lynch down off the net, but you can find it on YouTube. I won't tell you where to find it, but you can find it if you look hard enough.
Yeah, you can find all my work out there.
I'll take
some of it's bad, some of it's okay.
But the other piece of advice I'd give, just to piggyback off that, is it's something some advice I gave to a friend of mine recently, which is you've got to be involved as well. If you're not living the filmmaker lifestyle. Then
so you're saying going out there be a rock star?
You're only halfway. Making the films, I think, is only a half. Like, start attending film festivals, for example, right? You don't have to have a film in the film festival for you to attend.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's
a good experience. Go out to a film festival. It's a really good experience.
Yeah, you learn so much.
Well, one in particular. Go to Made in the West. You'll have a great experience.
Exactly. Shout outs to them.
Yeah, thank you.
But like,
shout out to Misty. Shout out to Jono.
Like at film festivals, you're not looking at Hollywood products, right? That millions of dollars. You're looking at short films and features. Now, some of them might have big budgets of like 50 grand or plus, but some of them also are made on shoestring budgets like yours. Like they might be made for under $1,000, you know?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Do it all the time.
You can learn, and you can learn from that. You can learn. Oh, they must have, why did they do this? Maybe it's because they're trying to save money on that.
Yeah.
Maybe they did this or X, Y, Z. That's one thing. There are other things too. Like one of the complaints I hear about Western Sydney filmmakers hang out is they go, "Well, there's not enough of them. You only do 4 a year." And I say to them,
"You serious? Like 4's a lot."
Yeah, well,
that's really good.
And I go,
I've only ever missed one. I've only ever missed one filmmakers hangout.
It was weird not having you there.
I was totally busy. I could not make it.
That's fine. But I go to those people. It's like, there are other things going on, and they're like, "What do you mean?" It's like, for example, in Western Sydney alone, we've Made in the West, right, which has a bunch of like moments where you can network and stuff. Same idea, but you get to see the films as well.
Yeah.
Information Cultural Exchange, ICE, hold multiple events going on.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
And these are like workshops too. This is basically free classes. Like, that's such a valuable...
good job.
They bring in people from Create New South Wales. They bring in people from all over the place to
I
share
think
knowledge.
that's one good avenue for them, is like, and that's programs that you've been through, through ICE and their connection with Create New South Wales.
Yeah, and it's not even just them, like ABC and SBS and all those other places. They provide so many opportunities specifically for Western Sydney.
Yeah.
So like they've got that, but there are other like Cause film festivals in Parramatta. I think Flickerfest is in Para.
Yeah, Flickerfest is in Para.
Yeah, Para. That's in, and then Tropfest as well. So these are already film events where filmmakers are going to be at.
There's Sydney Film Festival. There's Underground Sydney Film Festival.
Yeah, a little bit further out, but still within like an hour train ride, maybe less for some people.
I don't know. Some people complain about the train ride.
That one guy when Tropfest was moved to Parramatta,
that's right.
and
That's what I'm referring to. Yeah.
Why do I have to catch a train out there? It's like, mate, like, what do you think the rest of us are doing?
Parramatta, mate. Just, geographically the centre of the city.
The absolute, like, entitlement of someone to say that is just mind-boggling.
Yeah. Oh, well, look, I don't want to label anyone too much, but, screw that guy, man. Get on a train. But...
but sorry. So
where were we? I've lost our thread.
The advice. So just to wrap
That's right. The advice.
Like,
why be a filmmaker?
Like, you can be involved in other ways. Like, and you can even just find someone on Facebook, follow them, or Instagram, make a connection, maybe you can collaborate. Just find people you can make stuff with. Like, one way people will be like, oh, well, how do I get people to work on my project? Well, first of all, people want experience. So many actors are just desperate for content for their show reels, right? They're not only like they'll be willing to shoot for free. Because your payment to them is the footage. Always give your actors footage. Like,
totally.
You're a complete scumbag if you don't do that.
Yeah. You've got to allow time to give people pieces of the content that they've worked on.
Yeah.
And that's if you're gonna be one of those people that sells exposure, you've got to provide that exposure.
Yeah.
And so big message out there: look after your actors.
We'll come for you.
Yeah.
But and you can sure you pay people with money, especially the people who are really important to your crew and are worth it. But you can also pay people with experience if you're experienced enough, or favors. I pay most people with favors.
Yeah,
right?
Your time is money, man.
I am.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one way that I was able to jump from something like run and gun to more professional was I was like, okay, I'm shit. I know I'm shit. How do I get better? Well, I'm gonna volunteer in projects. I'm gonna go on YouTube tutorials.
Make yourself available.
Yeah. And so now it's like I own my own sound gear and a whole bunch of other stuff. I've got an editing suite at home.
I've borrowed that sound gear a lot.
See? Yeah. Right? But so the way I get people on board is like, hey, I'll do you were my soundie. Well, now you get to borrow my sound gear on a project, or you were my first AD. Well, maybe I'll be a producer on something.
Yeah, totally.
We can. It's like you scratch my back, I scratch yours, and that's how when you're working on a small budget, you can still be there. At the end of the day, we all want to grow. We all want to. We all want to grow together. That's so typical of me to hit a microphone.
Yeah, it is. It's typical of everybody. That's why they're gold. You can't miss it.
Yeah. Well, you'd be surprised. I'll just. But yeah, so like we all want to get to the same spot. We're only going to get there if we work together. So if you're not in a community, build your own.
Well, the other strength of the community is you get to learn different parts of the trade. So if you're a director, Like, because, you know, I've directed a few shorts. I'll still be someone's audio operator. I'll still be there, you know, I'll still be a cameraman for him. I'll still be a runner for him. You know, it depends on the person and the favour, don't get me wrong.
Course,
there are limits to your time. But I think investing that time into other people's films is that is quite a powerful thing, and it builds relationships, it builds community, and ultimately, as we progress along, because that's the other thing I've noticed with the progress in Western Sydney for artists, is they are getting paid more these days. They are becoming more professional. They are becoming marketable. That's why I think you know, we need to come out rattling the cages. We need to come out guns a-blazing.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, you know, like, you know, because you remember it, like, maybe it's a bit different these days, but at least 5 years ago, there was, it still exist, but, you know, postcode stigmatism.
Oh, 100%.
You know, just because you're from Western Sydney, that means that you're this type of stereotype. And I guess, I don't know, like, parts of what we do is a little bit of a protest to that. It's like, well, you know, if we can't join you, we'll just beat you. So I think, and we were touching on it before, you know, there's such a hodgepodge of different people in Western Sydney, from a myriad of different backgrounds, a myriad of different cultures, a myriad of different outlooks on life and belief systems, and it's that all of these tensions that are out there, all these alliances that are out there, really forge a really great foundation for ideas and artists to pop up.
I've always wanted to create like a documentary or something based on musicians from Western Sydney, specifically like the punk and metal genres, right? Because here's something no one realizes: some of the biggest bands from Australia all come from Western Sydney, and specifically is to all play these venues in Blacktown, right?
Yeah.
Viator's Murder, one of the biggest like deathcore bands in the world. Western Sydney. Tonight Alive, they did the pop punk song for the Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think they're from Castle. 5 Seconds of Summer. Like, they're like, you know, basically if there was like 4 or 5 Justin Biebers, one of the biggest bands in the world, they're from the western suburbs. I could name like North Lane, one of the biggest metal bands in Australia. The original Screamer used to sell movie tickets to me at Hoyt's at West Point, you know?
Yeah, okay.
I went to TAFE with their bass player at Narimba TAFE. Like, they... so many. That's just ones that come to my head now. Capture the Crown, which a good friend of mine was in, and I actually I did videography for them once on a tour. Just such an experience.
It's something you get roped into a lot.
Yeah,
always getting roped into videography at music events.
Oh yeah, you'd know about that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, someone help me, please. Help! I need a cameraman.
But these are just some of like the crazy like bands from Western Sydney alone, right? So it's not just filmmaking. It's a total arts like hub here that people just don't even recognize. We're just overflowing with talent.
Well, that's been my this is one of the things that's spawned off a lot of what I've been doing with Western Sydney artists and getting these platforms out there. You know, I was lucky enough to do a couple of gigs for TVS and you know, other organisations, other community organisations, where I got to go and interview a lot of filmmakers. I got to go and interview a lot of Sydney artists, and so many of them from Western Sydney, because you know, some of the guys that were paying us, they wouldn't pay our fuel. So I know that I know how if we had to go interview someone in the city, it'd cost more because it was a longer journey. But yeah, so many of those times that I go, oh, they're in Western Sydney, I'm going to save a bit of petrol money. That was more often than not, and that was one of the things that sort of clued me off. And interviewing all these guys, right, guys and girls, you get all these really cool tips about how to create these feed loops, about how they run rehearsal studios, how they run film studios, how they run podcasts, and it's just that sharing of information, and that's what I'd really like to see grow more, because it's starting, it's out there. There are these pockets of really cool people that are doing really cool things, and if we just keep that pot stirring, I think that a lot of good things will come out of our area in the next 10 years. I really do. I think we don't even know the gold mine we're sitting on. It's just really cool.
1,000%.
Yeah, 100,000%. Well, here, you know, we touched on it before. You're a long-time resident artist of Made in the West. So
Number one fan.
yeah. So you've been to the festival for near a decade now.
Oh.
Yeah, it's been that long.
The first was like, what, 13 or 14. I've been to every one.
Yeah.
More than half a decade.
We're up, I think we're up to, this is our 8th year. It is
Holy
this
shit.
year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's our 8th year this year.
Time flies when you're having fun.
So you're just for our audience of 20 or so, could you tell them about your experience from going to earlier Made in the West to the most recent? What as a filmmaker and as a audience member?
Yeah, I guess I've grown as a filmmaker as Made in the West has grown as a film festival. Mm-hmm. But the first one I went to, that was, the quality of films was not the same. 100%. Lynch got accepted. Like that's how it wasn't that hard.
Hey, look, Pushing the Envelope was out there as well. I do remember that being a good front runner.
Yeah. Too bad the filmmaker was such a dick.
Yeah, he was a bit of an asshole.
That's. So it's been crazy. In fact, when you moved to Paddington, which was sad to have outside of Western Sydney, but that venue was awesome.
Yeah, man, it was majestic.
Such a great and something that you guys have started doing. I think in the early days might have been maybe 3 festivals in or something that not a lot of festivals do or do well. Is the promo content you do that sort of supports the winners, like the stuff like the interviews, that little promo video you always put out, which I look forward to.
Oh, you mean the highlights video,
the highlight reels and all that stuff, where you get like the filmmakers saying like a quick snazzy one-liner, and you see a clip from their film, like that little stuff, like that goes a long way, I think. Not a lot of festivals do that well, I think, especially short film festivals. It's funny, like. I think a lot of film festivals that aim for short film festivals, they somehow have this weird thing in their minds where it's like, oh, we can't be prestigious because we're short films, which is insane.
That's insane. Oh yeah,
like short films are literally an Oscar category. Like there should be, but you guys go all out. The red
carpet. It's a spectacle.
You make a spectacle. Everyone dresses up. And then you guys took it to the next level in last year, 2018, with moving to Event Cinema. Was it Liverpool? Yeah, Liverpool.
Yeah, Event Cinemas Liverpool. Big shout out to Event Cinemas, by the way.
It looked so beautiful the way it was set up. Like I felt like I was at the Oscars or something. It was incredible, man.
Look, for someone that runs the technical background for that, moving from, and don't get me wrong, the Paddington RSL was a majestic venue. We really picked the Paddington because of the photographs. Because when you go to that event, you photograph all your filmmakers there. It's got all these gold trimmings, red lining. The photos look really cool.
Yeah.
But it was difficult to find a screen that was bigger than that for the size that we were.
Right.
And then going from a large SD screen to a 4-story.
A literal cinema screen.
A little cinema screen was for me. I had this moment where I walked in, like when I had 2 moments actually. I walked in when I was doing the tech test a week before, and I had an earpiece in and I was talking to the booth to talk about volume levels for each film and all this sort of thing. And I remember just looking up at the screen going, wow, this is insane. And the guys in the booth were going, it looks small down there. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll walk down the front and I'll stand under the screen, and I'm just shy of 6 foot, and I said, here I am here. And they're like, oh, wow, you're down there. I'm like, yeah, that's how big it is.
Damn.
Because it was the same tech team. Over the years, it's been generally the same tech team. And a big shout out to Dave, a big shout out to Steve, and a big shout out to Misty, of course. And we have shout out moments all the time. But it was just I was just in awe. But then having everyone walk down the red carpet for the 7th time, to have them walk into that cinema and then watching the filmmakers look at their content while looking at the audience, that was such a buzz. Watching everyone on a buzz was giving me a buzz. It's just, I just can't believe we got it this far. I just can't believe it there.
You should be so proud. It
kind of happened by accident, or a little bit of protest in there, a little bit of civil unrest to make Made in the West happen. I think.
No, that's how everything happens. Again, Western Sydney Filmmakers Hangout, total accident. Mm-hmm. Did not plan to do that. It was meant
it's
to
really
be,
important though.
Yeah, it was all. So for those who know, it's a networking group. It's a Facebook group, and it's like we do 4 events. We hang out and meet a year.
It's a collaborative network. So if you want to go and meet other filmmakers, whether they're actors, cinematographers, directors, writers, composers, makeup artists, Foley artists, sound engineers, musicians, that's who goes to that event. So throughout the year, as I said, I've only ever missed one. But every time I go, there's always people that have been to Made in the West, and there's people that haven't been to Made in the West yet.
Yeah.
There's always a mixture of those people. But the people end up going to that event usually go to Made in the West.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually do.
It's not intended to be an advertising platform for you, but it kind
of
is.
It kind of works that way. That's what I'm saying. It's so important to us. So thanks for running it.
No, well, it's not. That's not the intention of it. But like it is meant to grow the community. Just happens to be there's overlap there.
Oh no, but that's just one benefit out of it. Like the other benefits I see is every time I'm following it online. There's always another collaboration going on. There is.
They make me so happy when I see that.
How many films have come out of that group?
There are so many. Like one of my favorite stories, and there's so many collaborations. But there's this amazing actress named June, and she's like she's an older woman, and admittedly those that age demographic doesn't get cast a lot. So she came to a couple. One day gets cast. I introduced her to a filmmaker called Bina, who we both know and love.
Yes.
They went off
another
and
rock
made
star.
This incredible short, and she just blew me away in that. And so when I needed someone to play a therapist for a music video, I called her up based on seeing that, and then based on that, I think she got another role too. So potentially she got like 2 or 3 gigs from just showing up to one event, and it's someone who probably would have had trouble finding a role to suit her.
Yeah, so I see that all the time. Yeah. Even in that room that day. You just see so many people just networking, like, oh man, this place is just on fire.
Yeah, it makes me so happy.
Yeah, people just buzz out of there.
Speaking of shout outs, we've got to give the world's biggest shout out to Rachel Bell Myers.
RBM.
Who actually founded Western Sydney Filmmakers Hangout with me. But
she's a bit of a show off though. Rachel's a bit of a show off. Like, yeah, she has taken a lot of glassware away from Made in the West.
Well, she deserves it, I guess.
Yeah. 2 years running. Yeah. 2 years running, best in the West. That's a bloody difficult thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah,
good
absolutely.
For her. Honestly, good for her.
I was rooting against her. Like, I'm like, second year, I'm like, oh, she's gonna bloody win. I'm like, no, she can't win. I need to promote other filmmakers.
Well, Creative Illusions was pretty good. You can't. It's
a bloody good movie. Yeah.
It deserved its award for sure.
Yeah.
So the way that we started, 2016, I win Best Student Filmmaker, because as well as doing my master's degree in that. So I did get something out of that degree. We're both drunk, and she just won Best in the West.
Yeah.
And we're drunk on the staircase outside of Paddington RSL, where the venue
was. Which is a
time.
very normal scenario for someone who goes to Made in the West at Paddington RSL.
And we're drunk, and we sort of become friends. And we start talking about... I'm going through my film festival run for the first time. This is her second. And so we start to just message each other advice. And it's like we're high-fiving through our phones almost, right? Because there was one we both got into, which is in the Melbourne Underground Film Festival.
Yeah, that's right.
And so,
I remember
so that we both flew over, and that was great. And but yeah, through that, we just thought of how many awesome people we met that night. That night we met Ra, who's such a mover and shaker.
another rock star.
One of the biggest rock stars. He's Paul McCartney, you know.
Yeah, man. Oh, look, when he did
he's Jimi Hendrix.
His first film, The Briefcase. The Briefcase. It's just, I remember he's someone like yourself that would say, oh, look, I was so worried about this film. I didn't think it was going to do really well. And then, I don't think it got Best Cinematography, I think, that year.
Which is probably what he was hoping to get.
Yeah, that's what he was. Yeah, it didn't take any glassware away, but he pulled away a best cinematographer. And yeah, even after that, he's like, "Oh, I don't know, why'd you like that movie?" I'm like, "Because it was shot really well, dude."
Yeah.
Like, the judges liked it. They said it was the best. What do you want?
He's a machine when it comes to cinematography. Everything he does is beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, he's another rocket that's out there. Well, no, another rocket that should have a big shout out to is Luke Walker.
I love
cinematographer.
Luke. I would not be where I am without Luke.
Yeah, he's just another insane operator.
Yeah, he shot my last 2 shorts. He's shooting my next one, which goes in production next month.
So is he coming down?
He's coming all the way down from Queensland.
All right, so I need to book him for a podcast.
Oh, you might be able to. Maybe you can make.
So you need to give me a Friday so I can get him. Friday or Saturday.
We'll talk to him.
All right, just plant the seed.
He's also shooing something for a web series while he's here. So
okay.
It might be a tight squeeze, but maybe you can get him.
And I've got to get him to shoot my film. Yeah. That's somewhere later in the year.
Okay.
Yeah. See if we can bend his rubber arm.
he's very busy these days, so you're gonna have to fight for him.
Yeah. No. I had a drunken moment in the staircase with him. Luke, you need to shoot my movie, man. I love you, man. He's like, yeah, man, I'll shoot your movie, man. Luke, I'm like, yeah, let's do this, bro.
It's all the drunken meetings and staircases where it all happens.
So it's a big lesson. Drunken meetings and staircases can get you far in Western Sydney filmmakers.
Well, something I've always said was, even back when I was in a band, it's like, don't make fans, make friends, right? So, and that's what's in a band. I sort of say the same now. It's like, don't look at other creatives as rivals. Consider them as collaborators.
It's a big deal, man. Yeah.
Actually, if I give one more piece of advice, the biggest thing is like, don't have a fucking ego. Just assume your film is shit. Assume that you're shit at all times.
Oh, don't worry. You'll feel like it is anyway.
Yeah,
you'll feel that
There's
way.
There's some
anyway.
great people out there, but the problem is, I feel like some people are just so competitive. They think everything's a rivalry.
Yeah,
they want to treat it like it's high school. It's like, no, like, remember, you're in this. Like, you should be in this to be having fun. I think, right? If you take it too seriously, like, sure, market the shit out of yourself, do whatever you can, treat it seriously, but and when you don't win, your heart will break sometimes. Happens to me a million times, right? I want to cry over not whatever, right? That's the stuff we don't talk about. But like, the thing is you've got to know that you got to be happy for other people's success.
Yeah, totally.
And you got to be supportive.
I totally resonate with that. But don't get me wrong. I'm a bit on the fence about it. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, you want people to have a collegiate sort of approach to the industry, but sometimes people are just competitive.
Yeah.
And someone that is very much looking at all these filmmakers, and at the same time, I'm a filmmaker as well, so I've got 1 foot in and I'm 1 foot out. The festival takes up a lot of the time, so it's hard. I'm like part human, part cyborg, part filmmaker, part film festival director, right? And looking at all that content and looking at all these personalities, you do see the competition, you do see the rivalry. I think sometimes rivalry can be healthy, but I think what you're talking about is when that rivalry becomes unhealthy.
Oh, and I see that happen so much. Like,
so I don't like to see it get sinister. I don't like to see it get nasty. You know,
I'm more than happy to talk shit on a film, especially if it's a Hollywood film with millions of dollars, because then it's like, you got no excuse. You had all the money in the world. But I do get pissed off, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, but like, don't talk shit on indie films, right? Especially emerging filmmakers, because they're learning, and especially if you can't do better, don't.
Yeah, but look, we've been trolled, Matt. We've been trolled before.
We have, right? I've literally had people laugh at my films and say, as I said earlier, like, is an example of what not to do, right? I've been on the receiving end of that. But like, use it as learning experiences, and don't try and, like, if you get competitive to a point where you're wishing other people ill and you want them to do bad,
that's not good.
Then that's going to develop as a little demon inside you. That's not healthy. And I'm naturally competitive, but like, my mindset these days is I'm trying to do the opposite.
Yeah, but I think there is healthy rivalry out there.
Yeah,
there is healthy rivalry.
Healthy rivalry is good, right? It's why I did so well in my advanced English class. I had a rival, right? But like,
the arch nemesis.
Yes, but like, that's why I'm so grateful of having a platform like Western Sydney Filmmakers Hangout, because I can just be giving people opportunities. I can just give back. I'm totally okay to waste my time helping other people. And while some people are like, oh, why do that? It's like, well, I want people to succeed. maybe I'm not going to be super successful and famous. Maybe I won't be the next Steven Spielberg, but maybe I can help someone become the next Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm sure there'll be nice repercussions from that, and stuff that'll happen. But the thing is like you got to be more, you got to be more optimistic. I'm all about spreading the love, you know.
Well, I'm like, I totally resonate with that, by the way. But I'm all about, people being proud of what they're doing, because looking at the content that's out there, looking at the filmmakers that I know, the actors that I know, the musicians that I know, the activists that I know, the academics that I know, they're all just out there killing it. And I think they have a lot of positivity to add to the world. And I think, and ultimately as well, the content. We have this voice. For me, the Made in the West is a bit of a paradox. It's a platform, but I don't get to say anything in it. It's everyone else that gets to say something in it. All I get to do is comment about what they're commenting about.
I know it's hard, but make sure you take time for yourself to work on your dream project.
Yeah, I've got scripts in the back pocket like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, that's great.
There's a few that I'm working on. If you go to the website, you can find that out. At stillsearching.com. Stillsearchingproductions.com. There's a few projects that I'm working on, but you know me, I'm always working on projects. I'm always doing something. But I think when I put it in, jokes aside, I go, well, perhaps what we're doing is like, I guess it's the community TV artist in me about what we're doing. This is like community podcasting. If you look at it that way, it's a platform so we can get our artists out there to get personalities like yourself so they can talk about their experiences and make it inviting, because the whole idea for Western Sydney artists is that it's accessible, that technology has changed, and if we all start doing a little bit better, as Jim Jeffries would say, I think we all can do a little bit better. But I think if we just, my advice would be courageous, go out there and do it, and like you say, just release it, man. Don't hold on to it. It's never finished. Just let it go. Get it out there.
So hard to do.
People are going to love you. People are going to hate you. Yeah. Just as long as you're happy at the end of the day.
Something that someone once told me a long time ago, it was like, hey, if you don't try, you won't get it. It's like Nutri-Grain. You only get out what you put in. So now
sorry, the screaming Nutri-Grain guy.
Yeah. I remember him. But yeah, so that's why now I'm just like, I guess put it out there. So every time I've got something, I try and post it when I can online, because people aren't going to think of you as this awesome filmmaker if you don't tell them that you're an awesome filmmaker or awesome musician or whatever, So you got to be putting that out. I'll be able to miss if I realised I didn't finish the story from before about the start of Western Sydney Filmmakers Hangout.
Okay.
We met drunken on the stairs.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah,
Yes.
We totally digress. We need to get back to this.
It's totally
so
great.
there you are with
That was
Rachel
an amazing-
Bell-Myers
that was an
on a
amazing
stairwell, Paddington RSL,
Yeah.
2015.
2016.
2016.
And we're like, so we met all these cool people, and we're talking on Facebook, and it's like, do we really have to wait a year to see all these people again? Like, that's fucked up. So we set a Facebook event, and we're like, oh, we're just for the people we want to hang out with and see. We made it public. So yeah, you can invite some friends you want. We thought like 5 people. That's what we intended, 5 people. But like when people hit attending, it appears in someone else's newsfeed and da-da-da. 40 people show up.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt and Rachel, when's the next event? So the next day we made the group, made the events. That's how it all started. So just like Made in the West, total accident. Total accident.
Well, look, I was talking to Jonathan about it before. Event coordinator, Made in the West, and local filmmaker, writer, director. We just wanted to show our films. So, for the first Made in the West, I just wanted to show Colonel, and I realised that it was really boring just showing one 12-minute film in a cinema to 20 people. So I thought, why not just get 10 films together? You get to get all those audience. The filmmakers are invited because then they get to share your audience as well, and they get to show their movie in front of somebody. There's other facets to it as well. There's a bit of a protest in there. I think you know the story.
I think so.
A bit of a protest, but that was essentially the crux of it as well. Is about getting your film out there so that other people could see it.
And next thing you know, you got a film festival.
Well, everyone that finished after the festival were having drinks afterwards, because there was about 100 people at the first festival, and they're like, "Oh, so we'll see you next year." I'm like, "Yeah, I guess you will." And then all of a sudden you realise, oh, okay, I've got to become a promoter, an accountant, an administrator, a critic. It just started building from there. Now, Made in the West is a team. It takes a team to run it. I totally resonate with that. I think resonate's my word for the day, by the way. It's for Western Sydney, Western Sydney Film Hangouts. What a cool crowd. So if you're out there and you're listening to this, you've got to check it out. Park Royal Hotel every quarter.
Yeah, pretty much. We can find the Facebook community group. That's where it's all popping when the announcements happen. And yeah.
Yeah, and don't forget to check Matt out on Midnight Double Feature. Where can you find Midnight Double Feature?
We're everywhere. iTunes, Spotify, the main places, but we're on Instagram, Facebook, you name it, we're there. There's also our community group if you like memes and movie news, which is called The After Party. Are we just doing the plugs now? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, man. I've got to wrap it up. I'm wrapping up. This is my wrap up cue.
Yeah. Check out my website, Vellamatt Films. Vellamatt.com, sorry. And Vellamatt Films is the Facebook page. That's where all the latest news is happening. Getting ready to announce my next short very soon, which I'm very excited about. I'm really, really stepping things up. So stay tuned. Podcast, films.
No secrecy. Just we'll stay on the outside of the skirts of this project. Yeah. It must be big.
I wouldn't say it's big, but it's big for me.
It's big for you.
It's another step.
It's one of those other reaches. Yeah. Reaching out there and grabbing a hold.
That's me, man. Yeah. Every gotta step it up every time. Got to be ambitious, or you're never going to grow.
Well, Matt, I'd just like to thank you for coming along today. Welcome to the Pagey train. I'd love to have you back sometime.
I'd love to be back. Had a blast, man, and congrats again. This awesome setup.
Yeah, man. As I said, I wanted to do it right. Wanted to do it properly. And we've got a long line of guests that are coming. I just can't wait to add to the conversation and get this feed loop going, getting people where they need to go. So big shout out to obviously Still Searching Productions for the team there and the team of Made in the West. And if you want to know more, don't forget to check out the Pagey train. And we'll see you next time.
Fuck yeah!
All right, cool.
In the can. Now, please tell me you hit record.
Oh yeah, it's all recorded.